3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. I'm Fahima Mohammed, your host and relationship coach. Once again, we welcome you all here from British Muslim TV, wherever you're streaming, whether it's on TV, Sky Channel 752, Facebook or Twitter. We really appreciate all of you that are always supporting and watching, and you can participate in the conversation tonight. You can call in live directly to the studio on 01924231083. Please do ask the bill payer's permission, as standard network rates do apply. You can actually also message me via our free WhatsApp service, and that number is 07585835150. With that in mind, you can keep yourself anonymous and send me any of your questions, queries, and comments, and I can have them answered by our lovely guest tonight, who is going to be talking about how to deal with a breakup. That's a really interesting conversation and topic, and inshallah you will really benefit from it. But firstly, I would like for you to help me welcome our lovely guest, Dina Goda. Assalamu alaikum, Dina.
Wa alaikum assalam, Fahima. Yeah, it's really nice to be here, and it's really nice to do this with you.
It's absolutely my pleasure. I know how busy you are, and I really appreciate your time. And, it's such an amazing opportunity for everyone who's viewing and watching to have someone like yourself, because, you've obviously got such a vast amount of knowledge, information, and experience. So can you explain and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Dina Goda. I've been a qualified pharmacist for the past 13 years. A few years within my career, I kind of started to experience some of my own struggles and challenges, and that kind of led me to go to my own therapy. And from when I started to go through my own therapy, I realized, oh my God, this is so beneficial. It completely helped change lots of different aspects and how I saw and perceived lots of different things. So then I thought, this is what I want to do. I want to be like my therapist. And I went back to university and I studied and trained to become a psychotherapist. My training is an integrative psychotherapist, which kind of looks at how your childhood can be affecting your present. I also deal with CBT, so how your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are kind of all linked, and the core beliefs underneath that, and also the actual therapeutic relationship itself. So having a really safe space to kind of explore anything that a person wants to, without being judged and kind of accepted for what they bring and who they are. And I've been doing that for the past 4 years, and I've worked with lots of different clients with varying issues, and I absolutely love it. It's my passion, and it's something that comes from my heart. And I'm also a licensed relationship coach, and I work with couples and individuals and kind of work with them as a coach to coach them through the whole process and kind of help them achieve their goals. So that's what I do. I really believe in it. I think it can really help transform your life, especially if you're committed and you're working with someone who's committed to support you through that process. So that's just a little bit of insight about me.
Wow, amazing. I'm absolutely astounded. It's absolutely wonderful to have to, listen to all the experience that you have. And mashallah, you really have trained, and I can really sense the passion in yourself. I think a lot of us go into this kind of career path is because, we've actually gone through the challenges ourselves, and then you want to obviously transfer that and filter that to everybody else. So I think it's absolutely wonderful that, it's not just experience, but it's also the studies, the learning, the professional behind it, which I really do admire as well. Absolutely wonderful. Now, we always talk about relationships and how to get together, and it's so amazing for, Muslims especially, or just generally people to think about that. But, there's a side of things that happens even before you get married. When you're talking to somebody, there's a period where you might be even getting to know someone. And I know from my own sort of like talking to clients and people that even, come on the show, listening to us speak, and they email me with regards to their issues. And a lot of it does entail the breakup. not necessarily also just when you're after marriage, but also in the process of finding somebody, when they're actually getting to know someone, they get used to them, even if it's just through conversation over weeks and months. And, they do get attached. So the whole idea of breakup is such a huge deal. It makes a huge impact on a person for so many reasons and so many different ways and angles that we're going to look at. So we're going to divulge into that. So let me ask you firstly, why is it so difficult for us to deal with breakups?
So that's a really important question, and that's such a big question as well. I think when you look at, breakups encompass so many things which you've touched upon. It can encompass like a person going through a divorce, or it can be at the very initial stages of courtship, of when you're starting to get to know someone, even before you may have not even met them yet. So it covers such a wide range of, like a wide variety of stages of a relationship. When you think of a breakup, essentially, what is it in essence? A breakup is a loss, and under the bracket of losses can come lots of different categories. So losses, for one example, can come the category of, or one thing that normally comes to mind is heartbreak. When you go through a breakup, heartbreak comes into mind. And when you look at heartbreak, what is heartbreak? A lot of research and studies have shown that heartbreak is actually, it's not just a term, it's actually a real thing. And people can experience like physical symptoms, like physical pain, when they're going through heartbreak. And even like they've done brain scans which show that when somebody's going through the withdrawal of romantic love, the same mechanisms in the brain get activated as somebody who is experiencing withdrawal of drugs, of substances, whether that can be, for example, cocaine or opioids. So you're going through withdrawal symptoms as you go through heartbreak. That's one aspect of heartbreak, and that's one of the reasons why it can be incredibly painful, excruciatingly painful and difficult to deal with. So that's one aspect. And then there's lots of other types of losses that come with a breakup, whether that be stability, whether that be companionship, whether that be security. You can be very comfortable within a relationship, and you're kind of going into the unknown, especially if it's been a long-term marriage or a long-term relationship, or you've been kind of building a foundation in a relationship and a future with someone. You've got all of these hopes and dreams and aspirations of things that you've invested and things that you're planning to invest and achieve in the future. So there are also those kinds of losses. So there's lots of losses when it comes to breakup, and that's why part of the reason why it can be so hard. Also, when it comes to breakups, I think one aspect where it can be so hard is if you're the person that are being broken up with. So if somebody's ending the relationship with you, you're going through rejection yourself. And when you go through rejection, I don't think anybody in the world likes to experience rejection. But you're not only experiencing rejection from normally anyway, a lot of the times, you're not only experiencing the rejection that this person's kind of saying, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore, I don't want to pursue this anymore. A lot of the times what it can do, it can press against past wounds of rejection that might have not healed, or that might still be very present. And that's why you can sometimes get a very amplified reaction to something that might not be so very significant in your life. You might have just started to know someone, they might tell you that they're not interested in pursuing things anymore, and then you might react really in a way that is unexpected, and that you might find surprising, because it's not necessarily because of the person themselves, but it's because it's pressing against old wounds. And one thing that I'd also like to add is that I think sometimes we can add to our own suffering when it comes to breakups. A lot of the times what can frequently happen is that when somebody's going through a courtship phase, when they're engaged, when they're maybe have the nikah, or even when they're married, they make a commitment, or they build the commitment that they're making to the person based on a fantasy or a potential of what the person could be like, or what the relationship could be like. And there's nothing wrong with having aspirations or dreams or hopes and working towards something greater than what something actually is. But if you're not able to accept the reality of the situation, of the person, of the dynamics, of the relationship that you're in, what you can end up doing is, if there is a breakup in the relationship, you're not only grieving the loss of the reality of the relationship, but you're also grieving the loss of everything else that's kind of been built up in your own fantasy. And I think that's where people can kind of add to their own suffering, and which is kind of unnecessary. So that's why, if you're able to kind of see things for what they are and where they are and the reality of the situation, you kind of really can help yourself through that process.
Wow, you've given us such a huge insight in that introduction, and I love it. And I've actually got so much notes already while you were speaking, aside from all the other questions that I have for you. But what is the difference from the perspective of someone who is being dumped to the person that is going to dump? I mean, at the end of the day, you always assume that the person that's been rejected and dumped is feeling it the worst. Is it sort of different, similar, or what is the actual impact on both sides?
So that's a really good question. I think before I answer that question, I think it's really important to make a distinction. The distinction being putting aside like maybe abusive relationships, or like on any level, if you put aside the relationships which are abusive because they kind of have their own cycle, and if you put aside a relationship in situations where perhaps someone wasn't intending to end the relationship, but they may have found out news or certain circumstances may have happened, for example, infidelity, and they've decided that the relationship needs to end. So put aside those two relationships. If we're talking about normal relationships, quote unquote, which have got two normal people that are either getting to know each other or they're in a relationship of whatever sort, and somebody wants to end the relationship and somebody doesn't want to end the relationship. So you've got two people in two different positions. What are the stages and what is everybody going to go through? Now, normally when somebody, and this is a generalization, but when somebody comes to end a relationship, they're not going to wake up one morning and say, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore, I'm going to end it. What normally happens is they've been thinking about it for a while, they've been ruminating, they may have not been happy, they may have spoken to a person, and they may have tried different things to kind of end the relationship. So it's not something immediate. And then you've got the other person who doesn't actually want to end the relationship. So when they initially when they come to the decision, maybe 80% of them wants to, 20% doesn't, but they've taken the decision, they've got the courage, and they take the decision to end the relationship. Normally what will initially happen, they'll be feeling a sense of relief. They'll be feeling relief. The person on the receiving end, and also depending on the level of...
Well, Dina, you've given us such a good insight so far. And before we go into that even further, we're going to come back with that actually when we are after the break. So you've given us an introduction to that, but we are going to follow that through. We are coming into a very short break. Make sure you stay with us because that's a very important question that we are going to continue. And inshallah, we will have Dina's views to answer about breakup. And we look forward to seeing you afterwards.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. We're here with the lovely Dina talking about how to deal with a breakup. We love to obviously interact with you all to help you find that perfect spouse, but we've also got to deal with the other side of the story when things don't work out, and this is what we're doing tonight, and not just to help you overcome this, but hopefully to move you on to the next stage. Now, as we were discussing before the break with regards to two people that are in a relationship, one wants to end it, the other one doesn't. Now, you were going through the different stages. Could you please pick up on that and continue with that? Because it was really important and I really want to give you that time to explain it further.
Thanks, Fahima. Yeah, so as I was saying, the person who decides to end the relationship, they'll initially be feeling relief, which is the opposite spectrum to where normally the other person is on the receiving end, especially if they weren't expecting it or they didn't want it. So they're not going to be feeling relief. They're going to be feeling all the other emotions that come with a breakup. So they can be feeling sad, like anxiety, anger, So those are generally the initial kind, and shock, especially if they weren't expecting it. So
sorry,
so
Dina, when you said that the person who's actually dumping them, they will feel relief. Do you not think that sometimes there's also an addition of guilt as well? Because at the end of the day, with relief, they could be guilt because they could be feeling sorry and pity for the other person. Because we have to also understand that, as much as, the person who is actually being dumped, being, taken away that relationship, even from shock, we can't obviously take away the fact that the person who's doing it, they do have that kind of feeling as well. And I think for people that are going through that pain, they also need to understand it's not an easy decision. In fact, sometimes people stay in relationships for so long because it's easier. It's actually harder, even if it's relief. What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I can 100% agree with you. And that guilt and that not wanting to hurt the other person can make them stay in the relationship because they don't want the other person to experience pain, and they don't want to be the cause of the other person experiencing pain. Absolutely spot on. I 100% agree with you. So they might not just be feeling relief, they can be feeling guilt. They can, and I think part of the reason that people might put off delaying, or even not be able to go through the process of confronting someone, or not doing it in such a direct way, is because they don't want to confront the other person experiencing those kinds of feelings, and go through and witness the process of what it's like to actually break someone and potentially break their heart and cause them so much pain and sadness. So that's the reason either somebody might not do it directly, they might end up ghosting someone because they don't want that level of confrontation. So yes, I absolutely agree with you. You're absolutely 100% right. So, but on a general scale, the people maybe after that, and they've kind of processed that and they've dealt with that, there might be a level of relief, and they might end up going through a stage of like freedom, excitement, happiness, when they kind of like they can actually start to breathe from the relationship, that they've kind of taken that decision. And then the other person is going through different stages of grief. So the person who's being broken up with will have heightened state of emotions at the beginning. And as they go through the process of grief, those emotions can vary. They can go from depression to anger to bargaining, them trying to kind of see if they can get the relationship back, or kind of find a way to make it work if it hadn't done. And then kind of hopefully go through a process where they can kind of reach a stage where they can accept what's happened and accept it for what it is, accept that it didn't pan out how they wanted to. And once you kind of get to the acceptance stage, then you're able to move, hopefully, in a very general stage of the sense, move forward into a new relationship or move forward with your life. Now, the other person who's being broken, who's doing the breaking up, they're going to be experiencing those stages if they're given this space. So if somebody's breaking up with you, and then you kind of either chase them or bombard them or try to get them to come back to you, or contact their friends or family and really try your best and not kind of allow that space or respect their decision or respect the boundary that they've put in, that kind of affirms it and makes it easier for them to kind of move on, because they're thinking, God, I really need to move on from this relationship. They can't even respect or accept my kind of decision. So if you allow somebody that amount of space, you will also allow them the space to kind of grieve the process. They might not be grieving the process at the beginning, but if they have that space, they'll be able to go through that process, and then they'll be able to. They'll start to. They'll start to feel the sadness, and then they'll start to actually ruminate about what was happened and the memories that they shared. That sadness might go into anger because of, oh, I wish it could have worked out. If only this had happened, if only they had done this. That anger might then go into confusion or uncertainty and anxiety about, oh, did I make the right decision? Did I do the right thing? Am I, oh, actually, I've lost this, and this. And our brains also work in a funny way. When our brains, there's something called the faded effect bias, and our brains, after a certain amount of time, it forgets the bad things and it focuses on the good things, which can be good. But sometimes if you're breaking up with someone and there's valid reasons, you need to be aware of this, because you can even write down all the reasons of why you're breaking up with someone or why the relationship ended, to kind of remind yourself. Because if you do find yourself focusing on the positive and forgetting the negative, you need a reminder. And that's when you might find your friends or your family saying, oh, but remember they did this, and oh, remember, but this happened. But anyway, when somebody kind of gets to the stage of uncertainty and anxiety, that's when they start to really feel, that's when it can really hit them. So they're kind of working on from opposite sides of the scale. And then they're kind of, when they're starting to grieve the relationship, you might find the other person, that's when the other person is actually feeling a lot better. They might have started to really start working on themselves, started exploring different things, doing different activities. And and that's also when, if a person's had space, they might actually reach out to you again. If you've allowed them that space, you might find people coming back. And that's what happens if a person's broken up with you and you've allowed that space, you can find these people coming back into your life or popping up months, even sometimes years down the line, because it's
That's
actually hit
really
them a lot
interesting
later.
that you say that, though, Dina. I mean, I know this is theory and this is generalization, and I love what you're saying, and I know this is how it should be, or sometimes this is how it pans out. But obviously, in our Muslim community, when it comes to marriage and breakup, we don't really allow that space. We don't want it to happen. In fact, if anything, we want to push for reconciliation. We want to push for counseling. We want to push for therapy and things like that when it comes to it. So it's a very, very fine line. And obviously, it depends on the situation in each case study. So we are generalizing here. And of course, a lot of you that are watching and listening will have different feelings about this. Again, it also can be very triggering. And I want to warn the viewers that if you are triggered by anything that we're saying today, it is a serious topic. And people do have, some unnecessary and, some traumatic experiences just by even listening to this. So if you want to reach out, please do so on BritishMuslim.tv/support. It's really important that you do take care while listening to us tonight, and we are generalizing. Now, when it comes to men and women, there are a lot of studies that say it, but obviously we are individuals and we do actually, experience things differently. A lot of us say that, with men, they will just easily, whether or not they are the ones that chose to break up or not, but regardless, they can easily just move on to another relationship very quickly. They don't show their emotion as much, whereas a woman will actually feel the pain for a very long time before they get to the acceptance. Because breaking up is basically, like you said, it's like a grievance process. You go through those stages and then you get to it, but then in time you find the woman that flourishes in the long term, whereas the man will have to come back to that emotion where they have kind of brushed under the carpet, maybe months or years later, and they'll feel it later on. Is that really true, or what is it in your opinion?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you, and you've kind of summarized it really well there. Men and women are differently, even on a physiological level, they're different. You've got the right side of the brain, which deals with emotions, feelings, and loss. And then you've got the left side of the brain, which in general terms deals with problem solving. Women have their right side of the brain, in general terms, is 8 times larger than men. And the men's left side of the brain, which deals with the problem solving, is much larger in men than it is than in women. So that correlates with what you're saying. After a breakup happens, it's much easier and natural for women to kind of really cry and have an emotional response to what's actually happened, and that's backed up. That's backed up by research and by study. That correlates with research. Men, their left brain side of the brain gets activated. They're like, oh my God, I've just had this relationship's ended. I need to do something. I need to solve this. I'm no longer in a relationship. I need to do something to make myself feel better. So I'm going to get into another relationship. And that's why I think, in general terms, men can seem to kind of move on quicker than women. Women have the initial, they deal with the emotional side sooner and perhaps in a more intense way, and then they will deal with it later on. Research also shows that women's recovery after breakup is a lot faster than it is for men, and sometimes some men don't actually completely recover from heartbreak because I think partly because of the way that they're designed, partly because of society and the way that they're raised, and perhaps they don't have the same support systems as women do, and it's not so natural for somebody to go and sit there and kind of grieve and talk about it and kind of explore and understand what's happened and process that. That's much more natural, and it's much more supported for women, so it makes it easier in addition to it just being easier for women. So what you're saying and what you've summarized is definitely very representative of the truth and reality between men and women.
How interesting. And I love that. And it's good to clarify that, especially because it's backed up by science and research as well. But like I said, individual cases will differ. Now, how do you sort of grow after a breakup and sort of get to the stages of moving on? What are the actual stages for that?
I think with every breakup and with whenever any kind of relationship ends, there's massive room for growth and massive room for opportunity for you to kind of really reflect and kind of take the lessons that you have an opportunity to take the lessons of and really learn about yourself. It's really through relationships that we learn about relationships, and we learn about what we are like in relationships. So if you want to utilize the opportunity, you first of all, you need to kind of initially you need to really take a step back and kind of reflect and kind of introspect about what has happened in this relationship. You ask yourself, what are the things that drew me to this person? How did I get into this relationship? When did things start to break down? What was my contribution to the outcome? How did I contribute to things breaking down? I think it's really important to take accountability for your part and kind of be honest. I think the more honest you can be about yourself to yourself.
Well, that's a good point. And I'm going to stop you there because we are going to come back onto the break. And I think what you've highlighted is important. And I'm going to bring that back when we actually come back from the break. It's important that we do realize that you can answer any questions, and inshallah, Dina's here to answer them for you, as well as myself. Please do stay tuned. We're going to be continuing the conversation after this very short break. See you shortly.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Salam. We are here on Single Muslim Live, and we are sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. We're having, again, a wonderful conversation with our lovely guest, Dina. It's so important, the information that she's giving us around breakups. You know, not just talking about the science, but the neuroscience and how our brains react, our physiology. And honestly, anyone that's watching, and if you've missed out, please make sure that you rewind and watch it from the beginning, because there's so much information out there, and you certainly need to take notes. And inshallah, it will help you through this process if it ever happens. When we were talking before the break, Dina, we were talking about how to get over breakups. And I think it differs for different people. And I know you were going through the stages, but is there a timeline? I mean, a lot of people can really get stuck into this breakup stage for such a long time, and it can really waste many years. And I hear so many clients saying, you know, I wish I didn't, you know, stay that long. And what was the one thing that makes people come out of it a little bit quicker than the usual? What is it that they can do?
What is it they can do to help themselves through a breakup quicker? I think, one, you need to allow yourself to grieve the process on an emotional level. Two, you need to surround yourself with people who can support you through that process, whether that be friends, whether that be family, whether you get professional help, allowing you to kind of grieve the process what has actually happened in the relationship, to kind of help you make sense, especially if you haven't been given clarity or you can't really accept the reason. So kind of helping you get closure on the situation. So allowing you to grieve, allowing you to process on a cognitive level what's kind of happened and make sense of it, that will help you put something to bed. And then I think it's really important to highlight to not kind of stay stuck in processing and it becoming ruminating and you kind of keeping yourself there when it doesn't need to be. If you've got a house, for example, and you've got a living room and your living room is full of stuff and that living room is now empty, you need to fill that living room up with other things in you need to fill that living room up. And that's the thing, if you've had a relationship which has filled up some part of your life, you can fill that part of your life with other different things, whether that be spirituality, whether that be a new hobby that you've been wanting to do, whether it be something that you want to learn, whether you want to work on your fitness, whether you want to learn how to cook, whatever it is that you want to do, you can kind of fill that space with other things. You can start even like giving. I mean, giving has lots of other benefits, even if you're kind of struggling yourself. So there's fulfillment in that. So I think you need to help yourself. You need to help yourself kind of through the process, and not make it unnecessarily longer than it needs to be. With regards to how long should it take, I think it's hard to put a pinpoint figure, but one thing I can say is that research shows that if somebody's losing somebody through death, so if, for example, a husband and wife, and there's love there and there's compatibility and it's a good relationship, if somebody's lost a loved spouse, the normal grieving process can take up to 2 years. That's an average if there's like a healthy relationship and a healthy way of processing. And that's for a good relationship, and that's from a marriage or like a loss of a dear loved one. That can take up to 2 years. So if you can kind of use that as a ballpark point kind of assess how long it should be. But like you said, you don't want to waste years of your life. When you're giving somebody that time and energy, you're giving them something that you can benefit from. Yes, allow yourself to grieve, but don't make it worse than it needs to be, and don't make it longer than it needs to be. So I agree
Absolutely. No, I love what you said, and I think you really explained it well. And to add to that, I think a lot of people, when they break up, even if they're going through the grieving process and the reflection, I think the sooner you focus on yourself is better, because I find a lot of clients, especially women, they're focusing on what the other person is doing.
Yeah.
And they do so much of that, and they spend so much time as, oh, he's here, there, and everywhere. And also bringing back what if scenarios as to what could I have done in order to bring that relationship back, or could have done to not let it happen, or I would have done this, that, and the other. And I speak to so many people giving me the same sort of reasons for rewinding, when actually you should be focusing on yourself, trying to understand how can you grow from that relationship, how can you develop from that relationship, and most importantly, focus on yourself. That is really, really important. As much as you are concerned about what the other person is doing, try and focus on yourself, because again, you've already given that time. It is over. Now it's for you to give yourself that chance. And the sooner you do that, that's when you can actually also sort of make that sort of timeline a lot less for you to actually move on. So there is other scenarios where people are sort of on the fence, Dina, whether they're thinking, should I break up? Should I not break up? What kind of tips can you give someone when they are considering ending a relationship? It's a huge deal for both sides, as we mentioned. So what would be the kind of things that you would help someone to say, you know what, I could give them another chance, I could wait a bit longer, but at the end of the day, you don't want it to be where it also wastes your time. So what is the actual cutoff breakup point where you will make that choice, or what is it that will make you consider giving that person another chance?
Okay, so you've asked two separate questions there. You've asked about what do you
put it in one just to confuse you.
You've asked me, well, what does somebody do if they're on the fence? And then when do you give somebody another chance? So I'll try to answer both of them. So what do you do if you're on the fence? I think first of all, you need to really understand what it is that's bothering you. You need to get to the core root of what actually is going on in the relationship, what's causing the problems, why are you not happy, and kind of address that. You need to explore what you're doing to kind of rectify the situation. Are you speaking to the person? Is the person receptive? I think praying istikhara is incredibly important. You need to incorporate istikhara in every aspect of a relationship throughout all stages, at the beginning and towards an end if there is a likelihood of a breakup. So understanding what's going on and trying to address that through your own reflection. You can get professional help, whether that be through a coach or through therapy, and kind of really understand and address the core needs. Obviously, a relationship works two ways, and you need both people to be working on the relationship to make it work and to make it successful. So you see the response from the other person. And I also think, so focus on that. And also I think it's really important you take accountability for your part. I think that's incredibly important. Reflect and take accountability for your contribution to the dynamics, because there's always a two-way dynamic, and that can work in that can play out in lots of different ways, whether you need to work on setting boundaries, whether you need to work on expressing your needs, whether you need to work on actually having prioritizing the other person, or thinking or having more consideration. So that can play out. And so take accountability for what you're contributing towards a relationship, and marry that up with also having some level of self-compassion, and realizing that we're all human, we all make mistakes, and it's okay if you mess up sometimes. So I think pray istikhara, go through those stages, and ask yourself, is there evidence that things are changing? If you've been in a relationship, if you've been married, for example, for 5 years, and the last 3 years have been really difficult, you've been working on the relationship and you've not seen change, ask yourself, can I tolerate, am I okay with the next 3 years being the same as they are? Am I okay with the next 5 to 10 years being the same as they are now? See what evidence you have for change that's happening. So kind of go through that process, ask yourself those questions. That will help you be able to kind of know whether you, if you're kind of sat on the fence, that should hopefully help you navigate which way to go. Now, what was your second question again? It's kind of slipped my mind.
When do you consider giving someone another chance?
Oh,
I mean, I
okay.
guess you kind of put that in there to a certain extent.
Okay, I think when you would consider giving somebody another chance, one, you need to understand why the relationship's broken down, and then you need to have allowed space to kind of allow for reflection on both parts. You need to understand, you need to have evidence that there is change and that there will be change. You can't, Albert Einstein has a saying that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So if you haven't worked on yourself, if the other person hasn't worked on themselves, if you haven't understood why you're having these problems, you're going to get the same results again when you try again.
But what about a scenario for infidelity? Because that's just not really working on yourself. That's just trying to trust someone again. That's a very extreme case, obviously, but that's the most common that people will find that, you know what, if they've cheated on me, do I give them another chance or not?
I think that depends on you, if you're prepared to, and it also depends on the other party. For it to work after infidelity, I think there needs to be certain criteria. There needs to be certain aspects there. There needs to be remorse. There needs to be acknowledgement of what happened. There needs to be acknowledgement of how that's affected you. The person who's cheated on whatever level, they need to allow the other person to go at their own pace, and they really have to put, if the effort on their part maybe needs to be 80%, and they need to gain that person's trust. And I think with infidelity as well, you need to look at it from, we're not going back to the same relationship, we're creating a new relationship. And I think that's one of the ways that you can kind of make it work. But both parties have to be on board. You need the person is going to be willing to give the other person another chance, and the other person needs to really kind of identify what's gone on and work on rebuilding that level of trust again, because the trust has been broken, and that will kind of remain there for some time until I don't know.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I think that's a really important point. And I think what you also said, which was really important, is that two people need to work at a relationship. And I also find a lot of relationships that are trying to give a second chance, it's one person that is trying more than the other. Is there a barometer? How would you know that there's, both people that are making the effort?
How would you? Well, I guess that would be evident in that they're making the effort. I think you need to give somebody, like, if somebody is broken up with you or has, like, say, for example, cheated on you on somewhere at that level and there's infidelity there, don't go in giving your everything. If you want to give them the opportunity, create space and give them the opportunity and see what they do. And if they do something, reciprocate something in return at the same level. And then if they give more, you give more. And then if they give more, you give more. Don't go in all guns blazing and then you're kind of setting yourself up to get really disappointed afterwards. Take it step by step.
No, absolutely. I think that's such useful advice. And again, as much as we want family support and friend support, I think it's really important that we do find some professional help in this situation, especially for some, serious and extreme circumstances. We are coming into our final break. Please do stay with us. We're having such an amazing conversation, and Dina's giving us so much information on this topic. Please don't lose out by not staying with me and keeping up with the final part when we do come back. And I hope to see you then in a few moments. Take care. Salam.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. Having an amazing conversation with Dina with regards to breakup. And we do have a caller online. I want to get to that straight away. Salam, you're on British Muslim TV. What would you like to say?
Hi, I can't wait. I'm just here for the single Muslim thing. My girlfriend just broke up with me. I'm just here to see what advice you have.
Oh, okay. Could you explain a little bit more as to how long were you together?
So I was with her for over 4 years, and it was a recent breakup where she decided that it was too long distance, as I was all the way in Saudi Arabia and she was stuck in the UK.
Okay, so what is your actual question? How to deal with it, how to move on, or how to get back? What exactly would you like to know?
So, I don't know. I've been trying to contact her all the time, and she keeps texting me saying it's not going to work. And I keep telling myself that maybe there's a chance for it, but she's just not letting it happen. I don't know what to do about it.
I'm really sorry that you're feeling this way, and I really do appreciate you sharing this with us tonight. I'm going to put it across to my my guest tonight. Dina, did you hear what was just said?
I did hear what was just said. It sounds like that you're really kind of struggling to kind of accept the decision that was made, and like Fahima says, I'm really sorry to hear that you're going through that process. One thing that you could consider, or that you can kind of think about, is there anything that you could do to kind of rectify the situation if you wanted to? If I don't know how long the breakup has been, how long since it's happened, but that is part of the difficulty of a breakup. You're kind of having to accept something that you may not want, and when you can kind of get to that stage, it makes it easier for you. But it just sounds like it's a difficult process to go through, and not an easy one, and it's not really a nice thing to go through either. So I mirror what Fahima says, and I'm just sorry to hear that you're kind of going through that. But you can grow through it, reflect on what's happened, and rebuild your own life, and kind of hopefully move forward.
Well, thank you so much for that call. Unfortunately, we did actually lose the line, and I hope you're still hearing, because I think this is what it's really about. It just goes to show, and I can tell that you were very upset speaking on the actual call. And I just want to again say, I really do empathize with that feeling. And we've all had some sort of experience where the initial breakup, it's so heartbreaking. It's so painful. It is like a physical pain. And I want people to understand that. And I want you who called in to realize it is okay to feel this way. And trying to get that relationship back is one aspect, but what you need to realize is that you have been attached. You have been, used to that sort of, scenario for quite some time. So allow yourself, firstly, if you feel so much for that relationship, to respect the other person that you love. And even if you want back, allow that space for them to come to that decision, and give your time sort of like a way of maybe being with friends and family. And if you don't have that immediately, then seek some professional help to sort of help you through that, because the initial days is really, really important. Those decisions at the beginning can really make a change and a difference to how you're going to deal with it later on. And I just want you to give yourself that chance to say, look, I'm in this emotion. This is exactly how I'm feeling, but it's so important to distract yourself as much as you can with good food, good sleep, going out, if you can, with some really good, wonderful, loving friends and family, okay? Because you need comfort, because what you're getting from her, what you used to get from her, you still can get some of that from your friends and family, because you just need that kind of acknowledgement. You need a shoulder to cry on to get through it. But I promise you, every day will get slightly better. Okay, I know you said it's really immediate, and that immediate state will make you feel so vulnerable and like as if there's nothing you can do, but I promise you, you can. And please do reach out even more, and even try to email me if you want, or Dina, and we will try and help you if you need to have much more assistance outside the show. And again, thank you so much for calling in and sharing. And I really do wish you good luck, and hopefully you will get through this. And I know for a fact you will.
That's
again, it just goes to show how important these topics are, and people are listening, and they are, feeling what we are speaking. And it's so easy to even give these theories and to talk about it, but this is real life. When you go through it initially, like he's just reminded me as to how when you first go through it, all these things are not necessarily going to help you there and then. What you need is love and care around you, right? It's so important to reach out to people that are willing to have you in that space, and make sure you don't stay alone if that's what's making you overthink. And remind yourself of those scenarios and things, but also do it in a healthy way, because a lot of people can turn to substance, can get addicted, can go and turn to even, sadness, which can turn to depression. And, reflection is one thing, but if you're going to reflect in a way where you're going to have, that sort of like regret. So just be very, very careful and mindful. Okay. And I know I'm going a bit on about this because I think it's very important that people that called up like you just did, I want to make sure that people understand that this is not an easy process, and we're talking about this because it's real life. Again, please do reach out, and I hope to assist you any further. Dina, before we even end the show, I know we've got some time, but I want people, actually, this is a good time for you to share your details if someone wants to reach out to you, because I think it's important, especially with what you know and what you do, so that if anyone wants to reach out to you, what is the best way to do that?
So I'm very active. Currently, I'm in the process of building a website, and I'm in the process of doing that. But if you want to reach out to me, come find me and follow me on my Instagram page. It's at Dina Goda, all one word, and you can send me a DM. If you'd like to work with me, you can contact me through there, and that's where I share all my content. I make videos, and I do write posts sometimes as well. And I just share tips and pieces of information which I think people can find useful. So, and I'm also in the process of organising retreats and programs for people to attend to work on either self-development and growth, and also couple retreats. So I've got lots of things in the pipeline, inshallah, that I will be releasing in some stage in the future, sometime next year. But those are things in the pipeline. So, but come and find me on my Instagram. Come and find me on my Instagram page.
Yeah, definitely. Please do give her a follow. And if you do need extra help, and even when you're going through a breakup, I know the initial stages is not going through the development stage. I quickly want to ask you, as we've got only 5 minutes left, there's a common myth as well about if someone walks away from your life that, they never really valued you. And a lot of us, kind of have that loss of self-esteem, and they feel that they're not worthy. It's a really, it's heartbreaking. And I find that also with men and women. The other story is that men can deal with sort of rejection a lot easier. They can ask 50 girls, let's go out, whether it's on DMs or whatever, and if they get rejection, it's like, all right, it's fine, I can get another one. Whereas with women, it can be a little bit more personal. What's your thoughts on that?
Yes, I think that's true. I actually think men might not necessarily find it that easy. I think maybe behind social media it might be easier because there is kind of like a screen behind what's going on. I think with a lot of men, they need some kind of instigation if they can do. So they need to know that they're not going to get rejected for them to be able to take the first step, because a lot of the time women want men to take the first step to have that level of confidence. And in some cases they can, but they also sometimes they need like a little nudge. It doesn't have to be something direct, but they do need a little nudge to say, do you know what, if I approached her, there will be a chance of reciprocity. And you said that women kind of take it more personally. I think it does work both ways. I think it just might not be as visible for men. Men, you might not get to know what's going on internally in men. more so than women, because women generally tend to express more, and you can know what's going on because they will tell you what's going on some level, or they'll at least share that with their friends. So I think the exterior of what men go through might not always mirror what's internally going through, and they might not even understand it or experience it themselves, fully understand it themselves. So yeah, I think, does that answer the question?
Yeah, no, it does. Absolutely. We've only got a couple of minutes left. So if you wanted to leave some final thoughts before the show, I really want you to have that final say. So please take it away within a minute.
Oh, okay. Thanks for that, Fahima. I think people, it's really valuable for people to understand that breakups are a part of life. Like, I don't think anybody will go through life without experiencing some level of breakup. So it's normal, and emotions, they're not permanent. These states are not permanent. An emotion will come and an emotion will go, and for you to heal from it, you need to feel it. You need to feel to be able to heal. So kind of allowing yourself to feel those emotions and grieve the process. There is light at the end of the tunnel. You will get there. It will get better, inshallah. And there is so much opportunity from growth, from breakups. You can learn about yourself. You can learn about the mistakes that you make. You can learn about what you want and what you don't want, your needs and the things that you don't need in a relationship, what's important to you, your own values. So there's so much opportunity for growth. So if you're in a hard place, or if you've been in a hard place, and if you might experience difficult times to come in the future, it's okay, inshallah. Like, if you allow yourself to kind of go through the process, get the support that you need, surround yourself by people who can really help and support you and love you and care for you. You summarized the advice that you gave to the caller was brilliant, Fahima. I was like, yes. So really,
well, you know what? Thank you so much for today. You've been an absolute gem. You've given us so much insight, so much information. Honestly, I could really speak to you for a lot longer, but unfortunately, we have come to the end of the show. So I really want to thank you, Dina. Please, everyone that's watching, please do follow her. And yeah, I really, really appreciate your entire conversation tonight. So thank you for joining us today, Dina. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me and inviting me, Fahima. Like, it's been an honor.
No, I really love the show, and tonight was extra special. Again, my thoughts are with the caller that spoke to us tonight. I just want to say again, as I reiterate what Dina has said, it's really intense at the very beginning when it's an initial breakup and emotions are heightened. Allow yourself the space and you will get through it. But please do reach out if you need more information or any sort of assistance. This is why I love the show. It is all real, and we have amazing guests. And inshallah, you join us next week, same time, same place, where we will be having another topic and guest. We really appreciate you watching. We appreciate our guest tonight, wonderful Dina Goda. Please give her a follow, and we will see you next week. Take care. Have a good night. Assalamu alaikum.